Today, we're connecting the dots. Let's do this. Friends and neighbors, welcome back to the Brownstone. I hope you're all doing very well. Let's get right into it. A little while ago on the channel, I posted a video that was kind of a beginner's guide to soloing, where I asked you to choose a note. Any note, I didn't care what it was, as long as it sounded good to you. And then choose two notes that sounded good to you on either side of that target note. And then use those two little melodic, sort of 3-note melodic cells to create lines and also build larger cells. And that was it in a nutshell. Today, I want to focus on what note you choose, because taking this approach will allow for you to understand the harmony a little bit better. So today we're going to connect the dots. What that means is we're going to take chord tones, and instead of playing, stacked thirds, triads, chords, arpeggios, that kind of thing, we're going to take a chord tone and then play two notes on either side of that chord tone. So for instance, if I have a C major chord and I choose the third, that means my melodic cells are going to be the third, the fourth, and the fifth ascending, and then descending, I've got the third, the second, and the root. If I go to the fifth, I've got the fifth, the sixth, and the seventh. And then moving down from there, I've got the fifth, the fourth, and the third. And then if I take the seventh, I've got the seventh, the root, and the ninth. And then moving down, I've got seventh to the sixth to the fifth. Does that make sense? I can even do it with the root note. If I play the C, I've got 1, 2, 3, and then the root to the seventh to the sixth. So we can get into some cool ideas using this method. If I just choose one chord tone and one direction. In other words, let's say we take a 2-5-1 chord progression in the key of C. So that's D minor to G7 to C major 7. You know that already. So let's say I take moving from the third to the fifth, right? So if I remember the scales that I'm using, then I can just apply third, fourth, fifth to each of those chords, starting from those degrees, right? So if I start from the D minor, my third, fourth, and fifth will be, which already sounds beautiful. When I go to the G7, the third, fourth, and fifth sounds great. And then when I go to the one chord, the C major 7, 3, 4, 5, sounds great. So let's break that down. We're starting with the 2 chord in the key of C. That's going to be D minor. And if I'm using that D minor scale, Dorian scale, whatever. If I'm using that D minor scale, I'm playing the third of the scale to the fourth of the scale to the fifth of the scale. Those notes are going to be F to G to A. When I go down to the G7, remember that G7 is going to be a G major scale where the 7th note of the scale is flat. So on the G7, going from the 3rd to the 4th to the 5th, I've got B to C to D. And then when I play the C major, I've got my 3rd E, my 4th F, and the 5th G. So I can think of that and work it in the context of a tune. Maybe just create a bass line or just play some melodic ideas based on this sort of formulaic approach. It's formulaic when you start, but the more you get used to the sound of it, you can kind of hide the fact that you're using this very formulaic approach by, adding your own kinds of phrasing and choosing your own sequence within the phrase. You don't necessarily have to play 3, 4, 5 every time. You can mix it up. So what I like to do with these kinds of ideas is play them out of time, just so I can get used to the sound. So on that D minor, right? There's 3, 4, 5 on the D minor. When I go down to the G7, and then the C major. So how about we try this? We can just play simple quarter notes, and I'll play 3, 4, 5 on each chord. So that means we'll play like 2 quarter notes and a half note. So 1, 2, 3. That's going to be on the D minor. On the G7, I've got B, C, and D. And then on the C major, I've got E, F, G. So if I think about the rhythm and I think about these notes, then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again. This time I'll play the higher B on the 4th fret of the G string, and then, right? So now if you understand what's going on, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play the chords. You've heard the melody. You're just playing 3, 4, 5 on each chord. We'll do the C major twice, so we have a nice 4-bar pattern. Right? That's going to be the pattern. I'm just going to count you in, and then you're going to play along. All right? Here we go. 1, 2, ready? 1, 2, 3. Make sense? Sounding good? Let's keep going. Did you get it? How did that sound? Is it working? Hopefully it's working. Okay, so in the beginning I said we were using the chord tones, and I demonstrated how each of those chord tones would sound, starting from let's say we start from the 3rd, and then we go up to the 5th, and then we go up to the 7th. But check this out. This is going to be a bit more of an advanced version of the same exercise, because really cool things can happen when I start to use more of the chord tones. Check this out. What I'll do is I'll play 3-note cells ascending from each chord tone, but moving down. So that means I'll start from the 7th, I'll go to the 5th, I'll go to the 3rd, and then I'll go to the root. So check this out. If I have that D minor, then from the 7th, I've got from the 5th, from the 3rd, and then from the root, which is very cool because it's like I'm playing the scale, but I'm not playing the scale, right? I'm taking a different approach by using the chord tones and playing 3-note cells ascending down each chord tone. In other words, from the 7th to the 5th to the 3rd to the root. So from the 7th, I've got, from the 5th, I've got, from the 3rd, and then the root. When I go to the G7, same thing. Here's my 7th. I play a 3-note cell. From the 5th, from the 3rd, and from the root. And then on that C major, from the 7th, beautiful. From the 5th, from the 3rd, and from the root. I hope that makes sense. If you're having trouble with this, think about the scales that we're using for each of these chords. On the 2 chord, I'm playing a D minor scale where the 6th note of the scale is sharp, because the 2 is the Dorian, and the Dorian scale is a minor scale with a sharp 6. So, on the G7, I'm playing a major scale with a flat 7. That's the Mixolydian mode. And then on the 1 chord, I'm just playing a C major scale. So, if you don't have these scales under your fingers, then I suggest you just practice them in this way, just to give you an understanding of where the degrees are going to be, so that you can target these notes when we finally get into this newer exercise. All right, so if I think about the chord tones of the D minor, I've got D, F, A, and C. So I'm going to be working down the arpeggio, but playing 3-note cells from each chord tone. So if I go to that 7th, the C, I'm playing C, D, E. If I go to the 5th, I've got A, B, C. When I go to the 3rd, I've got F to G to A, and then the root is D, E, and F. When I go to G7, my 7th is the F, so I'm playing F, G, A. The 5th is going to be D. I've got D, E, F. The 3rd is B, B, C, D, and then the root is G, A, and B. And then when I go to the C major, I've got the 7, B, C, D, the 5th, G, A, B, the 3rd, E, F, G, and the root, C, D, and E. I kind of went through those quickly, but I suggest you take notes and write this information down. If you write it down, it's a lot easier for the information to get locked into the memory. People are always asking me if I give PDFs or things like that, and I don't really do that because that's not how I learned. I learned through listening and watching and taking my own notes. And I suggest that you do the same, because by doing that, the message gets across. Also, listen to the sound being created by each exercise, because there's a beautiful melodic pattern that happens in every single exercise. And if you can remember that pattern, then you know what notes you're going for before you go for them. So if I go to that D minor chord and play 3-note cells from each chord tone, here's my 7th, here's my 5th, here's my 3rd, here's the root. And then on the G7, it sounds beautiful already. On the G7, I've got 7th, 5th, 3rd, root. And then on the C major 7, I've got 7th, 5th, 3rd, root. And that's that. 1, A 1, 2, 3. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to leave it there, friends and neighbors. Again, work with this at your own pace. Take all the time you need to really get a deep understanding of what's going on with these cells. You know, as I was shooting this video and demonstrating these exercises, I came up with a bunch of different ideas that I can demonstrate in future videos. And I think I'll talk a little bit about this more in the next video. But if you like this one, you know the deal. Please do click like, share, subscribe to the channel, join the channel, donate to the channel if you are in a position to do so. All of the above is greatly appreciated. And I thank you for tuning in and visiting me here in the Brownstone. And I will see you in the next video very soon. Peace.